Hello everyone, welcome to the prep room at Washington County. Normally I'll be over at Waukesha, but this is my home base, so I'm going to do some of my videos from here when I'm prepping other things. So in your lab manual for lab 1, you have this section on media preparation. So the first thing we want to talk about briefly is what is media? So media is going to be this material that we use to culture our microorganisms. It can be liquid, it can be solid. It can grow a whole wide range of different microbes, or it can be very selective or differential for just certain microbes. The one that I'm going to work on today is something called tryptic soy agar. So the reason I'm going to do that is I happen to be short on plates, and that allows me also to do a demo. In your lab manual, it tells you how to make the broths, the slants, the deeps. So I'll tell you a little bit about those as well as we work through. So I'm going to direct us over to the fridge here. I'm going to grab out a handful of things that I tend to have on hand for lab. So one of the things I tend to have quite a bit of are some different types of solid plate media. So for growing some of the different really common microbes. And so you'll see in the door here, I've got some different plates that are present. Plates are a really common and easy way to grow microbes. Very easy to access, to use them. What you're going to see is we just have these solid plastic dishes with a layer of media inside of it. Now, in addition to the normal plates that I just showed you here, we also have what are called slants, deeps, and broths. So I'm going to grab out a few of these to show you some examples as well. So a deep is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. We have a whole bunch of this agar. Here, this is a tryptic soy agar. Sorry, it's a little blurry. And this is solid, so I can flip it around. Nothing's going to happen. In contrast, another one that we sometimes use are what are called broths. Broths are going to be when we want to grow things in a liquid suspension. So liquid, there's no agar that's being used to solidify that. And the last one that we sometimes use are called slants. I'm going to close this refrigerator. Give us some better background here. Slants can be kind of a narrow slant like that, or a really long, beautiful one like this. Notice it's really deep here on the one end and tapers as you move up through. So really nice if you want to culture something and then store it for a long period of time, particularly because they have some type of a cap on the top, so you're kind of sealing them up a little bit better. So I said before, we're going to go ahead and make some TSA, some tryptic soy agar. So let's go look at our options here. Well, I've got a whole bunch of different media that I can use. But the two that I want to point out for you are the tryptic soy broth and the tryptic soy agar. So the broth has got all the same nutrients in it as the agar, but it doesn't have the actual agarose component. Now you can take the broth, add agar to it, and pretty much get the same thing. Now using tryptic soy agar is a little bit easier because it already has that component in it. One of the nice things about these media as well is they give you the recipe right on the packaging. And notice it also tells me that I need to autoclave it at 121 Celsius for 15 minutes. So we'll talk about that in a second as well. The agar itself, if you're curious, if you're making it from broth, you would just add the correct then amount, usually 1 to 2% of agar. If you've ever made like a jello or anything like that, you've really done something quite similar at home, and you probably know a little bit about this procedure. So I would go over here, weigh out the correct amount. So if I'm doing like a half a liter, I do my 20 grams of that media. I would add the corresponding 500 milliliters of water, put them both in a flask and mix them up a little bit. Next, I would take that over to my autoclave. And now I've already got one started, so I can show you the next steps. So let me just come on over to the autoclave so you can see it. So this is our autoclave. This is the sterilizer SM300. On the autoclave, I set a temperature and the amount of time. Now I've actually set this one for 20 minutes, and it's already done 5 minutes of the sterilizing. So this will sterilize for 15 minutes more, and then it will gradually cool and release the pressure. Now this machine is under a lot of pressure. So let's go down here to the pressure gauge. So you can see here, if we were at atmospheric pressure, we'd be way down here at the 0. So this is how much pressure has been built up inside of the machine. So this is a great zone. This is where we want to be. We're not in the critical area, and we're not here at atmospheric. So inside of this is a flask of media that's being prepared. It's also got on top of it a piece of foil and a piece of autoclave tape. Autoclave tape is pretty darn nifty. It's one of the things that we can use to make sure the autoclave is working properly. The autoclave tape looks like this. It has a series of white stripes, and those white stripes turn black when we reach 121 degrees Celsius. Okay. So when a media comes out, and just like a good cooking show, I have something on standby here. It's going to look something like this. So this one's been sitting for a few minutes. I've let this one cool. Notice it's still liquid and it's still clear, beautiful crystal clear yellow color. It's really important to let them cool so you don't burn your hands when you're handling them, or melt the plates, or get a ton of condensation that builds up in the plates. Making these is really quite simple. So I would have a plate which I've labeled with my media type. So here I've labeled it with TSA. I would normally do this in the hood, and in the hood I would sterilize here the neck under a flame before pouring it into the dish. Also in the hood, I would open up my plate. I would pour here a certain amount of that beautiful liquid, and just enough to cover the plate. If it's a little under, I can give it a swirl and it will cover itself. And then I'm going to cap that. Now, if my media is still a little on the warm side, you're going to notice that that kind of swirl of that word condensation is going to form. So usually in the hood, I'll go ahead and vent these plates so they breathe a little bit better and they don't get a bunch of condensation. After they're done, they're going to solidify. They're going to look like this. This is one I just made just a few minutes ago. They're so fast. And when I store it, I'm going to store it upside down. Notice that it's 100% solidified. It's not going to fall out. So in case these are still a little on the warm side, they're going to form a little condensation, and I don't want that to be all over the surface of my plate. So I'll store it like this. Sorry about the glare from the light. Oh, that just made it worse, didn't it? Another one that I can do is what's called a deep. So here's a deep I just made, a nice fresh one. So to make a deep, what we do is we grab a big transfer pipette that looks like this. And I'll take you on a little more of a walk of the prep room here. And we grab one of these handles. So I'm going to go ahead and walk back here. Get my little tour through my prep room. This goes inside of this. See if I can do it one-handed. I'm going to pause this just 1 second. So it's inserted like this. And then when I'm getting my media, I'm just going to put that inside of the flask, and I'm going to take up however much I want. So if I'm making a deep, I want 8 mils. Since this goes down to 10, that means I'm going to suck up to the 2. And I do that by moving this little gadget right here. And then when I want to release that into my cylinder, I just push it down to expel that liquid. But of course, I would do that into my actual tube. Now I can do the exact same thing to make a slant, except I'm going to use less. So I'm going to use 6 milliliters of that agar solution. Put that in the sink for right now. Now I am trying to speed brush a few of these slants for you. I'm not sure if they're done yet. So you would go ahead and slant it, usually on some paper towel or something like that. Let's see here. Ooh, I think we're good. And there we go. So we've got a nice, beautiful slanted surface with the thicker on the bottom and the thinner on the top, like I showed you before. So we have 2 fresh ones made that I can go ahead and put with my little collection here that I pulled out. So a few other things I want to tell you about making media as I walk you around the prep room here. Sorry about the dirty backs. I'm cleaning some stuff here. So when you make media, you have a wide range of temperatures and durations that you can choose from when you're using that autoclave. So when I'm doing it, I want to do at least 15 to 20 minutes to make sure that I'm actually sterilizing my materials. You can run the autoclave though for much longer. It really depends on your purpose. So let's say I have a bunch of cultures in the fridge that I need to kill, which I do right now. I've got a rack of them that I need to get in the autoclave. Well, what I would want to do then is probably run that for closer to 50 minutes or an hour. Now, the reason for that is I'm trying to kill off a bunch of known microbes. In contrast, here I'm trying to sterilize the ingredients, so 15 to 20 minutes is plenty. So the amount of time that you use is really based on your purpose and what is actually present on the media. Another thing that we can probably mention if I look back at my lab manual here is, again, there are a wide range of different media types like you have shown in your lab manual. So the one that I worked on today is this TSA. And I also showed you the TSB or the TS broths. So again, from that I could make slants, I can make broths, I can make deeps. The type of media that I'm making today, again, was TSA, so you could read through if you want to answer any of the questions from the lab manual. I don't know why, so I ignore my scribble there, I don't know why I wrote that. I'm just looking to see if there's any other questions I want to address the concepts from here. Okay, this is what I just talked about. All right, now I think I'm good. All right, well, that was your brief tour of some of the stuff within the Washington County Prep Room and how to make some of the different media. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this helps when you are filling out some of your materials. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.